Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the course of the next 5 days, as it is remaining very unsettled and probably turning cooler as well through this weekend into the start of next week. Nothing particularly cold on the cards, but definitely a lot cooler than it has been recently. We've seen lots of temperatures in around the low teens mark. It does look likely next week we'll see temperatures more towards average of the mid to high single digits quite widely. Now this is because the jet stream is going to be shifting southwards, as we'll see on the longer range models in the second half of the video, with the low pressure systems diving further southwards as well, dragging cooler air with it, but also bringing that precipitation and the generally very unsettled weather further southwards as well. Now, areas across England and Wales in the south in general have seen rain from a lot of the low pressure systems, but they have been predominantly hitting the north and the west. And over the course of next week, with the jet stream shifting southwards, we'll see that a lot more of the centre of the lows and the weather fronts associated with it could hit the south a lot harder. So it could mean that the bulk of the precipitation next week could be falling in the south, but it could turn colder as well. So on its leading edge, on the northern edge, across northern England and Scotland, there could be a return to snow quite widely over higher ground, but could even fall to low-lying areas for a time as well. So we'll see what the various models are showing for today and see what the prospects are as we head towards the middle of the month, where we definitely do think it is going to be turning cooler, jet stream shifted southwards and staying very unsettled. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you're interested in what's going on in the stratosphere, which really could spice things up for the end of the month into the start of February, make sure you check out the video from yesterday where we had a look at that in a lot of detail. Big weather story going on at the moment, with a big shift towards potentially a sudden stratospheric warming from a lot of the model data during this week. So do check out that video from yesterday where we concentrate on that a lot. And if you're looking for cold weather, that will be very interesting. Have a look at that data for you. But if we do start today by having a look at the live radar, you can see a lot of heavy and even thundery showers breaking out through many western and progressing further eastwards and northwards as well at the moment as well. Now you can see the main weather front has shifted off out into the North Sea now. It's pretty much off radar, and we've just got the very unsettled, showery outlook left. Now you can see a lot of heavy showers here, some of these red cores indicating very torrential rain, and potentially even thunder and lightning mixed within this. Elsewhere, just generally heavy showers as well. There will be dry spells within this. There are plenty of areas where there's not precipitation around, but it'll still be quite unsettled, generally with a lot of thick cloud around, very strong winds, and some lighter blustery showers around as well. As I said, these will progress northwards and eastwards, and pretty much most areas have seen rain earlier today from the weather front, but will also probably see more precipitation in the form of showers over the course of this afternoon into this evening. Now, as I said, this is just the continued theme of very unsettled conditions. The wind is very strong as well today, so not only have we got heavy rain around, we've got very strong winds. Now, if you put on the temperatures as around 2 p.m, you can see generally it is a average to above average sort of day. Across Scotland, it's still cold over the higher ground, and not too unusual for this time of year, but most areas are a few degrees above average, around that sort of 8 to 10 degree mark, maybe even slightly higher in the far south. It doesn't feel that warm, really, in reality, with a strong wind and heavy rain. The feel-like temperatures are more towards sort of 4 or 5 degrees for many areas. So it does feel cold out there, but the actual thermometer temperature is above average for this time of year. But as I said, it will be turning cooler next week. Again, nothing especially cold, but something that will be a little bit fresher. If we do look out to our east, you can see it is bitterly cold across parts of Eastern Europe into Russia at the moment and Scandinavia, with a big lobe of tropospheric polar vortex heading there. Now, this would be we would take note of this if we were seeing northern blocking, because if our air originating from the east, it would be absolutely frigid. If we saw a beast from the east pattern at the moment, we would be extremely cold with well below average temperatures to our east, but we're not seeing that imminently. But interesting signs, if this cold air does stick around, if it does really give a very big chill to the far east of Europe, it could mean, if we did see a sudden stratospheric warming, we saw a bit of blocking, easterly winds, they could be quite a bit colder than they could usually be, or if they would have been if these areas were milder. So we've got to keep an eye on this, because again, it could feed into our weather patterns. We'll generally have to see how it does develop. But you can see on our latitude, bitterly cold across northern Canada, bitterly cold across Eastern Europe, and most of Asia, just showing you how the UK is very mild for our place on Earth. Once again, all down to the jet stream and the North Atlantic drift, bringing in milder air down from the Gulf of Mexico. So again, if you are a cold lover, you can just see how, if you were wanting snow, we are pretty unfortunate, really, in that regards, by having a look at our latitude. But on the other hand, it does mean that we're relatively mild a lot of the time, or at least compared to these areas. Now, if you go over to the UKV and have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the course of the next 5 days, you can see the very heavy rain that spread through this morning, a bit of a squall feature with that weather front, giving us very unsettled conditions. Through this afternoon, heavy showers breaking out quite widely, and you can see generally they could be quite thundery in the far west, and they will head further northwards and eastwards over the course of this evening, lining up into bands. You can see a band there through central southern England, through London, up through the Midlands into northern England. Very heavy, bright colours there, indicating potentially a line of very heavy thundery showers there, heading through around 5-6 p.m. So again, that'll be a few hours after this video is published, so do keep an eye out for that if you are out travelling. And those showers should die down a little bit through the evening, but they'll still head through, and perhaps another batch around midnight through the far southwest. Bit of winteriness over the high ground of Scotland, again not too unusual for this time of year, but we've not had a lot of that over the last week or so with the very mild southwesterlies, but it will return as we see cooler air come in. As we head through Sunday, just repeated showers quite widely in the far south, and western areas as well, and across Scotland, with some of this turning to snow. But Sunday, yes, it's not a washout day in terms of big weather fronts, but it's very showery, so you'd be lucky for many areas to escape with widespread dry conditions. You're likely to see heavy showers at times and generally thick cloud. There are a few patches of clear skies, but generally it is quite cloudy. Beyond that, as we head into Monday, more showers are moving in from the west, and again, it's a showery, blustery day. Through the afternoon, though, you can see for the far south and the east, it does turn brighter. Still some showers in the north and west, some of these wintry over higher ground, but generally we're seeing brighter skies, clear, break through the cloud. So it could be generally a little bit nicer through Monday if you are planning anything outdoors. As we head into Tuesday, you can see the jet stream has shifted southwards, because this big weather front is not positioned through Northern Ireland and Scotland. It's shifting through southwest England, Wales and central southern England as it does move in, and you can see on its leading edge potentially some snow over the higher ground. Again, not too much cold air wrapped in around it yet, but that will increase over the course of the next week to 10 days. But generally just very heavy rain in the far south, with the centre of a low heading through sort of central to northern England, much further southwards than they have been recently. And you can see this repeats as we head into Thursday, or Wednesday into Thursday, with a big weather front heading in from the south. Again, snow potentially on its leading northern edge, again indicating the centre of the lows are much further southwards. You can see that there, the centre of the low is much further southwards, a little bit of a daughter low there embedded within the main mother low to the north, and again the jet stream down through France. So again, it's not a huge change, it's just because we've got a slight shift in the direction of the jet stream from a bit of Atlantic higher pressure systems, or in the North Atlantic there, extending further northwards, just allowing the jet stream to dive slightly further northwards towards Greenland and dip slightly further southwards over the UK and northwest Europe, turning us quite a bit colder than we've been recently, but probably just generally towards average. As you can see, as we head through this afternoon, generally around 10 to 12 degrees in the south and the east, quite mild, but further northwards and westwards, cooler air, around 5 to 7 degrees, more towards average for this time of year. As we head through overnight tonight, temperatures not falling away all too much, around 5-6 degrees quite widely, and through into Sunday afternoon, much more towards average, 5 to 7 degrees, maybe 8 or 9, so a couple of degrees above average there, but much more seasonable feeling there. Again, it's not ridiculously cold, it's pretty much average, maybe still slightly above average, but quite a bit cooler than we've had recently. Through Sunday night, widely temperatures down to the low single digits. Again, not amazingly cold, and maybe an isolated frost here or there, but widely the temperatures look just hovering above the freezing mark. And as we head into Monday afternoon, you can see quite a cold day once again. much more towards average of 4 to 6 degrees widely, maybe 7 in some isolated spots, so quite cold there actually, at least compared to what we've had recently. And you can see some weather fronts approaching from the southwest, giving briefly milder air, but you can see just the northern edge still hovering around the low single digits, and that's where we could see the risk of snow, especially over high ground. But for many on Tuesday in the far south, got a big wedge of milder air, so it's about 12 degrees. But watch what happens as we head into Wednesday. Cooler air does return. By Wednesday afternoon, it's around or slightly above average once again, with 5 to 8 degrees. And that continues, and you can see into Thursday, much milder air coming up against that cold air, so perhaps some snow through northern areas, parts of the Republic of Ireland, Scotland, Northern Ireland seeing some snow, but further southwards and westwards, milder sector moving in. And this is the theme that we could see towards the middle of January. Nothing exceptionally cold, but cold air getting embedded slightly further southwards because of a southerly tracking jet stream, and that could mean that we do see potential for some marginal snow events, especially through northern areas, but not exclusively. If we did see the pattern set up so cold air got embedded widely, any small lows that try and bump into it from the south could produce widespread snow. And we'll have to see what happens with that again. It all depends on the individual runs. If you go over to the GFS now and have a look what that is showing over the course of the next couple of weeks, you can see the southwesterly flow at the moment staying very unsettled. As we head to early next week, more of a westerly flow to a northwesterly flow coming in, and you see that jet stream shifting further southwards, indicating cooler air masses are taking over. We see a brief ridge of high pressure there towards day 10, but watch what happens after that. About a day or two after that, we see the jet stream plunge southwards again, a northwesterly wind with a brief ridge of high pressure towards the North Atlantic extending towards Greenland, allowing that northwest-southeast alignment of the jet stream. After that, we stay generally on the cool side of the jet, with some low pressures moving into that cooler air, and right towards the end of the run with a bit of a northerly wind, and it's all due to this extended higher pressure system towards the North Atlantic. Not proper blocking, or at least blocking that's able to give us sustained, bitterly cold weather, but enough to keep us on generally the cool side of the jet stream, the -5 isotherm, to become much more involved in our weather, and that of course brings in the risk of more winteriness. So you can see that on the Ainsworth THP temperatures here, -5 isotherm consuming us, perhaps even the -10 isotherm coming in for Scotland there for a time, but if we do run it back, you can see we're generally below average, with brief milder sectors coming in at times that will introduce moisture, precipitation, and maybe some snow on its northern edge. But we'll have to see. This is the general pattern, and we'll have to hit up those individual sort of weather systems as they come into the shorter time frame. If you compare it to the GEM, see how that does compare. Again, a westerly flow at the moment, staying very unsettled. Again, the jet stream shifting slightly further southwards, it's sort of flirting with southern England. Again, a few hundred miles further southwards than it's been recently, and it just means we're on the cool side of the jet stream. And as we head towards day 10, you can see those lows running just to our south, and we are generally in the cooler air. Higher pressure towards northeast Canada and generally the northern Atlantic, and it just means that air is originating more from a northwesterly direction, keeping us cool. Again, nothing cold. Look at the temperature deviation. We're just in the blues, nothing sort of dark blue or purple, which would indicate freezing conditions. We're just generally in the lighter blues, indicating slightly below average. If we look at the ECMWF, see how that does compare. Again, a westerly flow at the moment, trending more northwesterly as we head into next week. And again, the jet stream shifts to our south. You can see these small lows developing on the southern extent. Again, how far southwards or northwards those will be will sort of decide if we do see any snow with it or just generally some rain. And again, how deep they get and how much wild air gets engaged with it will decide that as well. You look at the upper air temperatures, not too much cold air there, but if the -5 line did get wrapped in, it would go cooler, and you can see right towards day 10 generally a northwesterly flow with a generally cold air mass there. And again, look at the temperature deviation, slightly below average, but again, nothing too ridiculous. If we do finish, have a look at the ensemble members. You can see this really quite well. For London, at least, we're generally around average over the course of the next few weeks. Brief spikes above and periods of below average. You can see the GFS operational run there towards the middle of the month is very much more trending average to below average. For a time, we could actually the -5 isotherm sit around for a few days. And if we did see that, not from anything exceptional, but it would potentially cause cold weather for a time. Precipitation is generally high, perhaps a slight drying trend in the longer term. We did see signs of higher pressure trying to build in from the GFS operational run, but it didn't produce anything too dry. But there are signs of that perhaps. But the general theme is cooler and staying very unsettled. You can see from the sea level pressure, brief attempts at higher pressure in the longer term, but still a lot of scatter. And again, you look at the dew points trending more towards the sort of freezing in the longer term, again indicating colder, perhaps polar air masses coming back in. And if we do compare it to the ECMWF for London, again, you can see generally average to actually below average in the longer term. Quite cold from the ECMWF run today. Again, we'll have to see if this is consistent through many runs, but definitely hints of well below average towards the middle of the month and potentially the last third of January. Again, not due to any major blocking or anything, but generally cooler than average conditions from a southerly tracking jet stream and generally northwesterly winds. Lastly, though, I just want to check go have a look at the Glasgow ensemble members for the GFS, just see how they compare. Now you can see the 6 o'clock run, much more towards average, if not below average, and you can see smaller and less significant mild spikes, and that is important. If those mild spikes are in the south, it could give snow further northwards. So again, it is something we need to keep an eye on. Again, you need about the -5 isotherm really for snow, perhaps even slightly milder than that for areas in the north and over higher ground. So we'll have to see what happens, but I definitely do think there is scope for generally cold weather and unsettled weather to bring the risk of more snow over higher ground, or at least a return to snow over higher ground, could be to low-lying areas in the north as well. And there's a small chance, perhaps in sort of the 10 to 14 day time frame, if this pattern persisted and became more concrete with that jet stream to our south, we could even see perhaps some marginal snow elsewhere as well. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Make sure you stay safe out there. It is pretty blustery and horrible out there at the moment, and hopefully we do see some brighter, nicer conditions soon. It's pretty depressing out there at the moment, not going to lie, with this very miserable, cloudy, rainy sort of feel. Hopefully, if we do see some fresher conditions or some colder air masses come in, which are generally slightly drier, we will see more sunshine. But we will have to see. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.